This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. The era of Donald Trump brought with it, dragged with it, a miserable time in America in a number of different ways. One way, though, is the duplicitousness of people in Congress. People like Nancy Mace from South Carolina. People who want to act just like Donald Trump and talk out of both sides of their mouth so they have cover from the fire of criticism that will come their way. And Nancy Mace is absolutely one of these people. She wants to have it both ways. She wants to be able to be a Trump critic when it suits her, but then also wants to worship at the throne of Donald Trump and say, is he joking? I just can't tell what he's doing. What's he saying? Wants to push for the impeachment of Joe Biden with no evidence whatsoever, and then wants to say, well, we need to impeach Joe Biden in order to get the evidence that we need to impeach him. I mean, that's ultimately what she's saying in this clip I'm getting ready to show. It's a doozy, so brace yourself. There's a lot of attempts at using inside baseball language. There's a whole bunch of obfuscation. There's a whole bunch of just fundamental lack of understanding of the processes of which she's discussing. But ultimately, what she says throughout of all these words is that we need to impeach Biden, and that we need to find the evidence for impeaching him through impeachment. I mean, really, it's as simple as that, I guess. Watch her on with Kaitlan Collins on CNN, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
But an inquiry I would support at this juncture.
And why would you support that? Because you're on one of the committees that is investigating this. There's 3 committees investigating all of this, and there's a special counsel that is investigating Hunter Biden, has been investigating him for 5 years now. So why does there need to be an impeachment inquiry if there's already several ongoing investigations?
Yeah, great question. My understanding is it will give us access to Joe Biden's bank records. And if we can connect the dots and show the American people where the bribery allegations stand, where the money laundering stands, showing through vis-a-vis the bank records, that is a way to do that. If you could see what I have seen, and we can't share the SARS reports because they're confidential and that would be against the law. So we have to prove it via other means, via the bank records, for example. If that gets us Joe Biden's bank records, then I'm going to support it, because everyone should know what actually happened, what kind of businesses were involved, how Joe Biden was involved, the kind of money that was involved in these schemes is astounding. You would be shocked. You would blush, Kaitlan, if you'd seen what I had seen.
You've said this before, and we spoke with you after you went to the Treasury Department and looked at those reports. But I mean, you, as a member of Congress, do have access to those reports. You went and saw them yourself. So I think a lot of people ask, you've been home for 6 weeks. There's been no new evidence that's been uncovered or brought forward. So what is the basis now for having?
Well, there are more people to subpoena, whether that's Hunter Biden, whether that's the bookkeeper, whether that's getting Shokin in to testify. There are a lot of witnesses out there that saw things that were part of meetings that Joe Biden was a part of, that were part of the transactions, that were potentially part of the bribery scheme. I mean, all that evidence the American people should be able to have and see. The American people can't.
None of it has risen to that.
Well, the American people can't see the suspicious activity reports. Those are confidential documents. So any piece of evidence, right or wrong, I want the American people to see all of it, whether it backs us up or does not. The people deserve the truth and nothing but the truth.
Isn't it supposed to be the evidence that leads you to pursue impeachment and impeachment inquiry?
Well, that's what the inquiry is for.
But there's already
more evidence.
Investigations. I think that's where people are confused, because it's not like.
But we don't have Joe Biden's bank records yet. And so one way to do that, my understanding, would be through an impeachment inquiry. So if that's what gets us those bank records, then I'm going to support it. I'm just saying, if you could see what I have seen, and I believe you deserve to see that.
But have you seen direct evidence related to President Biden? Because that's what we have not heard.
Yeah. Absolute nonsense. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. And to show you just the level of dipshittery that she is very comfortable trafficking in is this moment here at the end of the interview with Kaitlan Collins, where she, announces herself as a moderate or a centrist, which should tell you everything you need to know about the Republican Party in 2023, that if Nancy Mace can, with a straight face, proclaim herself to be a moderate and a centrist, but here, it's again, does Kevin McCarthy have the political clout to carry this forward, to make this happen? And she heaps praise on him. And then Kaitlan Collins shows a clip of Donald Trump saying, when I'm elected, I'm going to direct my attorney general to indict people. And when they say, well, they've done nothing wrong, I'll just say, find something, indict them for tax evasion or whatever. And rather than be appalled by this, whether joking or serious, rather than be appalled by this, Nancy Mace says, yeah, well, I can't tell if he's joking, as though that matters. This centrist is giving cover to an absolute monster who she's A-OK with being president of the United States again. Watch this second remarkable clip.
If his leadership is called into question potentially as soon as this week, do you still support him as the leader?
I do support him as the leader. I don't know who would be waiting in the wings for that job. We have a very diverse party, whether you are MAGA, whether you are a libertarian, whether you are a moderate or a centrist like myself. We have a diversity of opinions. He's been able to bring those blocks together. We call them the five families. He's been able to bring those families together. I typically am an island of one. I don't mind operating that way, but I also get a chance to have a meeting and speak to him and speak to leadership and tell them, where I stand as well. And so I appreciate the opportunity to be able to have those conversations, to be able to negotiate votes, to be able to negotiate legislation with him. He's been very open to all the voices, and I hope that will continue.
You've had a very storied history with the former President Donald Trump. He said something on Friday night at a rally that I want you to listen to.
I win, and somebody wants to run against me. I call my attorney general. I say, listen, indict him. Well, he hasn't done anything wrong that we know of. I don't know. Indict him on income tax evasion. You'll figure it out.
That's what he was saying he would do if he wins a second term. I mean, but isn't that the definition of weaponization of federal government?
I can't tell by the tone if he's joking or if he's serious. But
isn't that the whole Trump? I mean, that's what everyone said about Trump every year he's in office.
I don't know. So, but I will say that setting the precedent of arresting your number one political enemy is a poor precedent to set. We don't want any president, current or future, to say, well, someone did it to me, they arrested me when I was running for president, I'm going to do the same to them. We don't want the tit for tat. All evidence, all due process should follow the facts rather than guide, an indictment or an arrest prematurely. I wish that they had waited. I think several of the indictments aren't really worth the paper that they're printed on. And I wish that they had waited until after the presidential primary, because we don't want to set that kind of precedent in the future now or in the future at all, to give somebody else the power to do that.
I mean, you can't just get a subpoena and have this indictment. It's not like it's President Biden doing it. I mean, there's evidence that these prosecutors have used to get subpoenas to have these indictments that I mean, obviously it'll be decided in a court of law, but it's not like there's no basis. He's saying he could just manufacture whatever against someone who's running against him and have his attorney general pursue it. Is that appropriate?
It'll be decided in a court of law, but also
is it appropriate for the Republican frontrunner, the party of law and order, to say, hey, I'm going to make up these charges about someone who's running against me if I am president again?
It'll also be decided in the court of public opinion. It'll be decided at the ballot in the Republican primary, whether or not people think he should run for president, for example. All of that, the public gets to decide when they go into the ballot box and they press a lever to vote for president.
But what's your opinion on his comment there?
I can't tell if he's joking or if he's serious. Like, sometimes it's a joke, sometimes he's serious.
I'm confident when I say that most of you out there are appalled by that we witness how Joe Biden has handled this entire ordeal with the criminality of Donald Trump and the consequences that are following, and he has been silent. He has been a non-factor in it. So much so that he's not even interfering with an indictment of his son or the soon-to-come indictments of his son and what will likely be and justifiably be the prosecution of his son for the gun charge and the other things. That's good because the president should not be interfering. The president should not be trying to punish political adversaries or using his power to protect family members who have done wrong stuff. But that's not Donald Trump. And Republicans, rather than condemn the man that they're worshiping, they're going to try to impeach with no evidence. I mean, zero evidence of any crime whatsoever. Only innuendo and conspiracy theories that they themselves created. They're going to go after Joe Biden, which is, I think, very clearly, it is just naked on its face, retribution for the two absolutely justified impeachments of Donald Trump. The one for the January 6th insurrection that he incited, that we witnessed, and two, for extorting a foreign leader for help in a campaign for dirt on Joe Biden, the now president of the United States. It's all just, come on. Anyway, what do you think about this? I'd love to know. You can call, leave me a brief voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me, as always, daily at dollemore.com. I'd love to hear from you. Follow me on social media. I'm at Dollemore on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Facebook, everywhere at Dollemore. If that's your thing, you can connect with me there. And if you appreciate what I do, you want to help support my work, help produce what we do here, hit the join button, become a channel member for $2 a month, hit the super thanks button, or even better, you can go over to my Patreon page, which can be found at patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. I love and appreciate you guys very much. I will see you next time. Until then, be genuine. Take care of one another.